Got Mike. What's up? What's up? What's up, everybody? I am Bernard Damon Holcomb, and welcome to the Damon Speaks Show. We have a very, very special guest tonight. We have a very, very special show for you tonight. But I just wanted to take a moment to thank each and every one of you for, hey, Tiberius, thanks for tuning in, man. You guys are great supporters. I really appreciate you. Thank you for going on this journey with me. I decided last month that I wanted to do some shows about love. And so we produced 4 shows called the Love Series. The first week, we talked to Netta, the official, a spiritual life coach who told us about empaths and dating. And we were trying to figure out if we were ready to date and talking about red flags and green flags and all the things. And then the second week, I had some singles on and one guy who was in an open relationship. That was very, piping hot tea, very good conversation. And then last week, I had a few married couples on. We talked about love and marriage. And that was awesome. And tonight, the final show in the series is about heartbreak and divorce. I have a personal story with heartbreak and divorce. My parents separated in 2000. They separated in 1998, and then they formally got divorced in 2003. And then they both got remarried. And so I, as a child of divorce, have had very intense experiences and thoughts. So if you happen to be a child of divorce, you can always reach out to me. We can always commiserate on our feelings. But tonight, really, the focus is talking to a divorcee, Miss Cassandra Douglas. She's going to share her story and what's going on in her life. The thought for the week this week is to learn how to appreciate the little things. I know it can be difficult in the age of social media to be comfortable being in your own skin, be comfortable doing your own thing in your own lane, because we see others having the followers and the blue checks and the subscribers and all those things. And we think that we have to measure up to them, but we really don't. We can really be okay. We can really learn how to be okay being with ourselves. Comparison is the thief of joy. You hear me? Like COVID snatched my singing gigs. Comparison will snatch up your joy. So if you are experiencing depression and anxiety and you feel like you're never going to make it, you're never going to get famous, or you're never going to achieve your dreams, maybe take a back seat and just begin to appreciate the little things. Maya Angelou, one book that I was reading, she said that she sat down at the table and she started to write down every little thing that she was grateful for. She started with, I have eyes. I'm grateful that I can see. I'm grateful that, the color red exists. It could really be anything. And by the time she filled up that page, she was feeling much better. I know it's very cliche to say gratitude, 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 but y'all, it really does work. Be appreciative of the smallest things. And then, as your vibration raises, as you start to feel better about yourself and about your life and about what you're doing and being in your own lane, then you'll start to attract the resources. Then you'll start to attract the people. It can be easy for us to think that we do not live in an abundant universe, that only one person can be famous or only a certain number of people can have the money and the home and the kids. No, it's there for you too. It's possible for you too. So as you go through this week and you start appreciating the little things, also start to look at the evidence. Look for the evidence. Let's say your best friend goes viral and you've been trying to go viral for a long time. Instead of looking at that and saying, oh my God, like he went viral, that means I'll never go viral. And I can't believe this is so bad. Say, oh, you know what? That's evidence. If it can happen to my best friend, and if it can happen to someone that's that close to me, then it can happen for me. If my best friend can get engaged and get married, hey, cuz, I love you. If my best friend can get married and have all the things that I want, that means it's just one step closer to me. There's no secret what God can do. What God has done for others, what God has done for me, God will also do for you. All right. So, without further ado, I'm going to bring on Miss Cassandra Douglas. Come on in here, girl, with your fine self. Fine. Ain't she fine?
Yay. Thank you for that beautiful, wonderful introduction.
How are you?
I am feeling blessed and highly favored.
Ah, yes. Huh?
Amen.
So, tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
So, I am a opera singer. Ta-da! But I also work in grants management to just pay the bills and keep things. I really believe that you need to have something to support the craft, and so for at least some people thrive off of instability. I thrive off of stability, and so grants management and working on my operatic career professionally. And about myself, I'm a daughter of immigrants. I'm Jamaican by descent. I love that my family is so unique, and it's given me a different perspective on the world. Since then, it's really just been like, how do you show up and be the best version of you every single day and face all of the challenges therein? And that those challenges really aren't there to break us down, but well, I mean, I think that they are, but they're there to help us break through. But how will you know where you are weakest until you have that crippling kind of broken moment to say, this is my breakdown, but this is actually my breakthrough, breakdown to
Whew.
breakthrough. So so that's the work. That's the work. And I've been on that journey for I can say officially 2013. That was when I was like, something's got to change. And maybe there were signs before then, but since then it's really been like, okay, how can I bring the best version of myself forward? How can I be the best singer that I possibly can be, the best daughter, uh, uh, I was going to say son, but clearly I'm a female, so that's not but
Gender is fluid, you know.
it is fluid, it is, but just to be like the best auntie, the best singer, the best me, like big Cassandra taking care of small Cassandra. And so, yeah, that's telling a little bit about myself, but like I'm a very deeply introverted, well, introvert, extrovert, but deeply thinking person. And so I really do feel that of the blessings that flow to me, it's because I'm lining up with
Mm,
a certain mindset and a frequency. Just
mm,
like if I was a major chord, I want to connect with and vibe with other major chords so that there's harmony. If I was a dissonant chord trying to line up with a major chord, it would really be offsetting. It might be fun jazz wise, be like, ooh, that's an interesting color. But
mhm,
ultimately it's not congruent. There's no frequency connection, and it there's a discord to it, hence dissonance.
mhm.
And so my work has been to just really figure out who how am I showing up for myself every day so that I can attain the things that I truly desire in life
Ooh,
and have a full life, whatever that is whatever I dream of, I really want to be able to manifest that. So yeah.
I love it. I love it. We're gonna get to that, to more of that, because I really want to hear more about that being in alignment and really showing up for yourself. But I started this thing where I bring up a few memes, my favorite memes from the week, and we can just talk about how we feel about them.
All right, perfect.
So, sis, life is short. Go through his phone today. So I'm
Woo!
not even gonna ask you like if it's appropriate to go through the phone. What I really want to know is at what point in a relationship is it appropriate to go through your partner's phone? Y'all go off in the comments too. Just let me know. No, I'm just kidding. Have you ever been in a relationship where you felt comfortable going through someone's phone? Did you ever feel like you needed to?
So there's a couple layers here. Like, if you are getting to know somebody and you are learning to build trust, because trust is not just a trust is such a full word. You know, it means so many things to different people. So first, it's like, are you both on the same page of your collective definitions of trust? Because if there is a dissonance there, if you are not believing the same thing, then that is room for a lack of communication and clarity, and a lot of room for resentment to build. So trust, and we don't have time to really delve into that because that's its own category. But really, what is the trust that you both agree to? And if that is the case, then asking permission, because it's not yours. Like, it's it's just not. It doesn't have your name on it. It doesn't have your number in it. It doesn't have anything like that. But if you've built the relationship in such a way that you trust that person, there is a agreement about what that is. Great book to go read is The Four Agreements by uh, Miguel Ruiz. I forget his first name. Paul Miguel Ruiz. But the Four Agreements. Um, and in that it says, I won't go into it, but like, if you have agreements that you both agree to, that you're on the same page about, that has been communicated in advance, not in a heated moment, because that's usually when you're reactionary, but like when you are emotionally sober is a great way to put it.
Come on, emotionally sober now. Huh? Come on.
Exactly. You're not reacting, you're not feeling triggered, you're not depressed, you're not working yourself up with some story in your head about who he is or what she's doing or da, da, but like, you're calm, you're stable, everything's fantastic.
Mm,
And from that place, you've made an agreement about how you choose to be in relationship with each other from a trusting space. And if you then ask, can I see what's on your phone? There should be no problem with your partner being like, yeah, here, because you've asked permission. You've asked permission. It would be all it could be disrespectful to just pick up your partner's phone and go, well, I feel like
mm,
XYZ. I, that's
mm,
about you. That ain't about we. That ain't about the connection that you both are investing in on a regular basis. It
mhm.
becomes about your ego wanting something because of what? Now, another question to ask yourself is what you are feeling, is that actually true?
Oof.
Is it real? Is it happening in reality? There is proof, not, well, I think he said because I saw him, and my friend said he saw her, and that you do not know is real.
Mhm.
And so the real question is, yeah, life is short. When are you going to have that conversation, that hard conversation with your partner to say, I am feeling insecurity about this and that, and
Mm.
I think I want to talk about it because it is making me feel like I cannot trust you to value me. And then maybe that has nothing to do with him. And then that's the deeper work. Well, why are you feeling so much insecurity? Why are you feeling a lack of groundedness in how you are showing up for this relationship? Maybe this ain't the relationship for you, baby girl.
Ooh, whoa, yeah.
Can I get an amen?
Amen, sister.
So that's actually quite a heavy one, because I think that anger, uh, insecurity, these lower based emotions can lead us to feel a sense of lack. of not enoughness. And when you feel that, the real awareness begins of like, why am I feeling insecurity? Why am I at the bottom of the barrel feeling like I need to go grab his phone to confirm something in me? Because really, it's a short term hit. It's like, because
Go,
then
go with that. Yes, yes, yes,
yeah,
yes,
like
yes.
it's like a dopamine hit or whatever. Like you get your drink, you get your hit of weed, you get your whatever you need, and it's short term
You'll
because
need another one.
you're
You'll
gonna
need
need
you.
another one. Exactly.
Yeah. A friend of mine told me recently, she gave me some great advice.
Mm.
Thank you, LaShawn. She said, believe none of what you hear and only half of what you
My
see.
father says that. That is what my father has been saying since I was a little girl.
Huh? She also
So
said,
true.
listen, if a person wants to cheat on you, if a person wants to lie, there is nothing that you can do to stop them from doing it. And she believes, and it's worked in her life, that she doesn't have to go looking for the mess. The mess will find her and it will come to her because God is not going to leave her in a situation where she's being made a fool and where she's going the wrong way. So when something went down in her relationship, it just happened to pop up. She didn't have to look for it. It came for her. So if you're out there thinking, oh, what is my man doing? I got to, baby, go to sleep, put yourself at rest, and know that whatever's going on, it'll show up.
It'll show up because actually, the only thing you have control over is how you choose to respond to life. You have that is the only choice and power you actually have. So, with what everybody else is doing, are you going to let them disturb your peace?
Woo!
Worth it. It's
Huh?
worth it. Like, because if you don't really get grounded with how you choose to responsibly share your energy with other people, then they'll just take it.
Okay. This is the next one. Humble as ever, but aware of my value. Talk to me about this one.
Beautiful. Humbling is a very interesting word because when I think of humbling, the image that comes to mind is coming down on my knees. Like I
Mm,
got to get down on my knees and pray, or I've got something that's so heavy it brings me to my knees.
mm,
Um, and so to me, that's a heavy word because I have definitely had a lot of things in my life that have humbled me, checked
truly.
my ego, checked my insecurities, checked the parts of me that doesn't believe I'm a valuable woman that has something worthy to contribute, and get clear about the gifts that I actually have been given and actually nurture those things. So I think like a seed in the soil, you got to put the seed in the soil first and then nurture it. So if you've got something that's bringing you down to your knees, and you've got to really look at yourself and look at how you showed up, look at the choices you made, because your life right now is really just a reflection of the choices you made. Nobody put a gun to your head and said you have to do XYZ. And
Mm.
not that, I mean, there's moments where that happens. I mean, those are extreme, hopefully extreme moments.
Please, Lord, don't let the
I
people.
know, please let's not. But like ultimately, when we get up every day, we choose what's the first thing we're going to do. Are we going to reach for our phone and react to everything that we see and react to every like, or are we going to get up every morning and like ourselves first and pour into ourselves first? So
Just
that
got hot in my face.
yeah, because then every like thereafter is bonus. Every like thereafter is bonus. And it don't matter. It's nice. It's acknowledgement. And I'm like, hey, I'm a Leo. I love to be the center of attention. Look at me. I got my yellow on. I'm like, I got my makeup did. I was like, I want to make sure I look good. All those things. But like ultimately, that that used to be the thing that grabbed me, like, oh, I have to go and be perfect because I'm looking for attention. It was just like this outside thing until I got humble and was like, no, I'm responsible for my own happiness. And even when you're in a relationship, you're still 100% responsible for
Honey.
how you take care of yourself. It's not that
Honey.
other person's job, it's yours.
Hmm. Absolutely. You know, I've had an interesting relationship with the word humble because growing up in the church, I don't know if this was really what they were trying to do, but it made me feel like I wasn't deserving and that I wasn't worthy, and so I was very lowly. And if good things came to me, there were actually times when when someone would say, "You did a good job singing that solo," and I'd be like, "No, no, 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 no. God gets the glory. Like I'm nothing." But I don't think that is actually really truly helpful. I think that what this is saying is that there can be a balance. I can be humble and know where all my blessings come from, but also know that I am valuable and that I give something. I have a gift that I'm giving to the world. You know what
Mm,
I'm saying?
amen.
I love it.
He said.
I love it. Let's go to that next meme. What that next meme got to say? Oh. New relationships would be like him. What you doing? Her. Laundry. Him. Okay, baby, please be careful. Talk to me about like that new relationship feel where you're talking all day long. Has that lasted throughout a relationship for you? Was it short lived? Did you enjoy it? Was it annoying?
I find it annoying. I do. I'm like, look, I'm good. Why are you bothering me? But that might be why I'm currently single. So I mean,
I don't know.
it's just this space of I would want to the first thing that would come to mind is why are you worried that I need to be careful? Is it maybe because like my last apartment, the laundry was literally like out the front door of the building and like the next building, it was right there. Like there's nothing to be worried about. It's like it's laundry. Like why are you but I find that um I'll speak solely for myself. I am a woman that comes with a lot of power and energy, and
I feel it.
it's just a lot, and that is not always seen as feminine, you know.
Mhm.
And while I do have my feminine qualities which I value and I love, that is soft and receptive and communicative. um my physical vitality is very masculine. It's very like, oh, you need me to pick up that 20-pound bag of soil that you got to move? Sure. Boom. Not even like think about it. Or like the other day, I was getting something for my mother because I'm currently living at my mom's house right now while I build my condo or renovate my condo. So I feel good about that. But like the transition space of like, anyway, so I'm running to the store to grab some bread for my mom. And on my way out the store, there was a gentleman that was in a wheel, like one of those mobile wheelchair things with a cart and everything. And it's snowy, so he got stuck kind of going up the ramp. And I was like, "Do you need help?" And he was like, "Nah, you a girl." And I was like, "Okay." And I grabbed the cage part or the basket part, and I just pulled him up to the street. And he was like, "Ooh, you a 21st century woman. Ooh, you a 21st century woman. Okay." And I was like, "You're welcome." Because there were three other people out there and they were looking at this man struggling and did nothing. But I don't think about I feel like Wonder Woman, like she's strong. She's physically out of this world strong, but she uses it and wields it in a way that does for good. And that is the way I've really connected with that, where I was like, I don't have to. I mean, there was a time where I was trying to show off, but really, this is just a strength and vitality that is the blessing of my body. Not
Mm,
everybody has that strength, but I have it. And
mm,
so I'm not afraid to put it to good use, especially when it's to help another person, like in the city, seeing people, older people struggling up the stairs with either with groceries. I would just, or suitcases, I would just pick it up and help them to go up the stairs because I'm young and I have the vitality, and maybe one day when I'm old I won't have this gift, but I
mm,
have it now. So
mm.
so that's this whole thing of like, baby be careful. I'll be like, do you know how powerful I am? Are you the right man for me? Mm.
Let me get you straight.
Yeah, like this is not a question to be asking me. Anyway, but
This one, okay, so I am a hopeless romantic, and I love that new relationship phase. I love talking like all the time. Now, if we've been together for like 20 years, then maybe not, but I like to talk. But this is going a little bit far. But I would still be I would be here for it because for me that means like, oh, he really is like into me. It may be like, adolescent, like an adolescent thought, but that's just where I am. That's what it is.
hey, to each their own, my dear. To each their own. I'll be like, this man needs to stop getting up all under me. I just, ugh. But again, I am single, so
Okay. Okay, so we're here to talk about heartbreak and divorce. And you were once married and now you're not. So can you give us a glimpse into that? Like, how did you meet your husband? Your ex-husband, excuse me.
oh, I met my ex husband. It was really sweet. We met in college in my undergraduate degree program at Westminster Choir College in Princeton, New Jersey. And I mean, he was from backwoods Pennsylvania, the sweet little white boy. I was the first black woman he had ever seen in his life.
Okay.
So from his perspective, I was very exotic, and I was like, all right, stroke my ego. Okay. So we just knew of each other, but you're a freshman, you're trying to figure things out. You really don't know anybody yet, and you're just trying to figure out your own self. You're like, oh my gosh, this is all new. And so it came to a point in the semester, still early in the semester, like a month in, where my voice teacher was like, you need a pianist to play for these voice lessons. And I was like, oh, I don't know any pianists. Oh my God. And so over lunch, he overheard me sharing some silly story about my cat. And from there, he got talking and we got chatting. And then I learned he was a pianist. And then I was like, so would you be willing to play for my lessons? I really need a pianist. And he just smiled and he was like, I would be honored to be working with you. I would be honored to be your pianist. And I was like, oh,
Was
okay.
there a spark?
I mean, I think I was too disconnected to really know. But when he said honored, that was my, oh, well, maybe there's, okay. And so then from that point, we started working with each other regularly. And I was literally just this past weekend at my college, just checking it out one final time because I think they're going to demolish it and move on to
Oh,
merging it to another school. And
no, not no. Okay, we can talk
yeah,
about that
yeah,
another
that's a whole nother story. So I just wanted to be on that campus grounds one more time before. I mean, I haven't physically walked that ground since I graduated a long time ago. I won't be saying when. But so it was really refreshing and like fulfilling to go back. And I walked past this one building called Taylor Hall, and I remember just so many memories. My ex-husband and we had this one practice room that was actually a teacher studio that was the lock like didn't really work. So after school hours, we would um, bust into that practice room because practice rooms were like hot commodity, you know? And so we just happened to know of this one studio where you could just jiggle the door handle and get in. And that's where we fell in love. We fell in love with music. We fell in love with performing. We fell in love with each other from our like this mental connect that turned into more of a physical thing. And he's just really still a beautifully kind soul that was giving and supportive. And I honestly thank him for the fact that I graduated because I was so woefully underprepared for college, that at least from a musician standpoint, that he really was my rock for that entire experience. And I fell head over heels in love with him because of it and because of other wonderful characteristics as well. But really, we bonded musically, and that was what brought us together. So it was great.
Okay, so two young kids in love. How did the marriage come about? Like, when did you decide, or when did
Well,
he propose?
well, we fought about it because we were coming to the end of our senior year, I think, and um, I for a good 6 months we fought because I'm coming from a very traditional Jamaican West Indian family, 7-day Adventist. Like you get married, you don't just you don't just jack up with this person. And so my mom kind of put it to me, because we were dreaming about what we were going to do after school. Like, are we going to move in with each other for the first time? And he was an RA, so like we had a lot of shared time because he just had a single room for himself. So we had this experience of feeling very connected with one another, and it was fantastic. And then it was like, okay, well, we're going to move off campus eventually once you're done being an RA for all 4 years, and we're going to live together. I happened to share that with my mom, and she was like, Lord Jesus, you ain't moving into any house without a ring and a date. It's like, oh my God, a ring and a date. I don't know. And so I just put that pressure right on that poor boy. And I didn't even have a good reason. I just had this like familial pressure of like, you have to. And so I really feel like overall, we had pressure from both sides. And while we had familial support, we also had familial pressures that really made it difficult for us to grow, because you don't just marry the person, you marry their family. And
Honey,
so
from what I hear, I've never been married, but that's what I hear.
yes, I learned firsthand. I learned firsthand. So yeah, so that was a pressure, and we fought about it. And he would just ask why, because for him, he was saying, it's a ring and a date. Or no, 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 no. He was saying it's just a piece of paper. And I was like, no, it's something else. And
Mm.
so I just kept swimming around this feeling of like, I really don't know. I just know I'm supposed to be doing this. And then I ran off to Italy for the summer to go and sing. And I really felt like, okay, we're going to just be done, because we couldn't find a common ground about this one thing. And I knew I couldn't move in with him because my parents were not going to have it. And I was still so young, like, I didn't know any better. So I gave up. I kind of was like, but absence makes the heart grow fonder.
Mm.
And that's when there was no cell phones. You had to get a phone card and dial at certain hours, and you only had so much time on that phone card, and we would write letters. And so there was just still this beautiful connection of love. It just was shrouded by this familial pressure that he didn't understand, and I honestly couldn't understand, but I was adhering to. And he was like, well, I can't get on board with this thing. You can't give me a clear definition around. And even though his parents are married, they were very like, again, saw it as just a piece of paper. They didn't feel like it changed them at all. So his family wasn't even really giving him any real context. But I was away the whole summer. And when I came back, I was happy to see him because we had continued to stay connected while I was so far away. And it was just nice. It was expansive. I had my own apartment. I was like feeling like a true Italian lady. Not at all, but in my mind, I was. And I came back and there was a ring. Like, I came back and there was a ring. He even went out of his way to ask my father's permission because he knew it was important to me. How do you say no to that? Like, you
Did
just
you
graduate.
freak out?
I
Like,
just,
even though there was this pressure, were you like, oh my God, it's actually happening, like there's a ring?
I
Or were
just,
you like, yay, there's a ring?
and I really don't get very excited about a lot of things. So I just was more stunned that he stepped out of his comfort zone to meet me at where I was kind of stuck. I didn't know I was stuck, but where I was stuck.
Mhm.
And and then we moved forward, and we moved forward as a team, which was like so awesome. We had so many things that were working for us because we could communicate with each other, and as long as we were making music together, we were continuously on the same page. And so our music making continued and our relationship continued. We moved in with one another, and we started to plan
It was a
our.
ring. So now you can move it together.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, exactly. Now I'm gonna actually move in together with him. And it worked out. So it was really like, that was a really beautiful time. Um, we were too young to have like an engagement party or all that stuff. Like, I just, that wasn't even on my mind. It was, oh my gosh, we're graduating. Oh my gosh, okay, we're moving into an apartment. Okay, we need to figure out student loans. Okay, I've got to work. Okay, you've got to work. Okay, we're building something. So we became business partners. Our lives became very intertwined. And we started to build a business together. And he had, in the end, a piano studio of 76 students. And then I became a professional yoga teacher, or yeah, a yoga instructor. And I taught, it's like 15 classes a week. And then I was working part time other places so that we would have insurance. Like, it was all to build our business life. And it started with him. And then I moved into my career after that. So yeah, it was really great. And yet, we didn't last.
Yet. I'm realizing a friend of mine told me that not every relationship has to end at the aisle, has to end at the altar.
Mm,
Who knows what may have happened if there wasn't that familial pressure between you two? Because it really seems like you loved each other. I mean, is that not love? Like, because of the pressure? Okay, let's talk about this for a second.
mm.
Do you think that it was really love, that caused him to get the ring and to ask your father, or was he just afraid of losing you, so he went against what he really wanted to do because he really wanted to be with you? Was that love? Was it codependency? How do you see that now?
That's a good question. And I honestly I can't answer it because it's with him.
Mm.
I will never know that, and I've made my peace with being okay with not knowing. And that's something that a lot of people struggle with in relationship when it ends, is that you've got this connection and you want to know why. You're like, why? And
Talk about
honest,
it. Talk about it.
yeah, there's no knowing. There's no knowing of um it's just not for you actually to know.
Hmm.
And you've got to make peace with just being okay with your experience, your feelings about this thing, and just unpack those things. Oh, I see somebody asked a question. How did he get your ring size? Did he just ask? Well, prior to my leaving, we had had many conversations about marriage, and one of them was that we did get my ring sized. Because I've got these like big old paws. So they're not just easily like, oh, she may be a and I didn't have any girlfriends at that time who were like aware of those things because I was outside of my, once you're dumped into school, you're making new friends and having a different kind of connection. So um, we'd already been talking about it, and it wasn't, we were not on the same page about the actual act of getting married. So even though we had talked through everything, because again, we were really great communicators with each other, we still were not in agreement because he couldn't understand it and I couldn't really put words to the feeling,
Mm.
which actually was surprising because then when I actually did get married, he felt completely different and I did not.
Mm.
I was like, oh, I thought this was going to be a different feeling, like my
Mm.
parents and my aunties all said. And it didn't help that being a daughter of immigrants, that none of the previous people in my family actually had an official wedding. So I was the first of generations of women to have a true walk down the aisle wedding. So that was another pressure because
Pressure.
when I tell you my mom turned into bridezilla, she was the bridezilla. Her and her sisters, and then yeah, it was just like, again, we had a lot of pressures. The day itself was amazing, like top 10 of the top 5 best days of my life. I can still count that as getting married. The day itself was incredible, amazing. We had so much fun, but it did not take away from all of the pressure building up to that moment and all of the pressure that we then experienced after that. So yeah, family does have a huge impact. And it took me time. Well, I think also having cultural differences didn't help either because I was coming from a world of Jamaicans who are very direct. I have seen my father straight up tell women, they're like, oh my God, look, oh, wait, you look so fat. Oh, what's wrong with you? And you're like, Dad, she's pregnant. Or if she isn't pregnant, like I remember we were on the A train one day and this woman came on and he's like, oh, look away, your belly's so big, you need to sit down because you're pregnant. And she's like, I'm not pregnant. She's like, well, you look like you should be, so why don't you sit down? And I was like, oh, Dad. Just
Oh my God.
want to like, there's just an honesty and a directness there that cannot be denied and is so cultural. My dad is particularly pointed with his tongue. So there's that. Whereas my ex-husband and his family were masters of passive aggressiveness, and
Ooh.
I did not know what I was getting into.
Ooh.
So, yeah.
Okay, so you get to this wedding day, you get to the altar, you get through your mom being a bridezilla. Tell me about the honeymoon. Like, was there a honeymoon right afterward?
Yeah, we had a lovely honeymoon. It was beautiful. It was wonderful. It was restorative. It was great. We went to, I didn't want to go to an island because I'm like, I'm from an island. I see Jamaica every year. I just want to see something different. Let's like go someplace else. And so we went to Seattle. It's like random, but it was beautiful. They have natural rainforests, so we did hikes in the natural rainforest. We went to all of the little islands off the coast. It was
Mm.
stunning in a very different way that was very new for me, having a very like an expansive worldview because I'd already been to Italy and I'm very connected to going back and forth to Jamaica regularly. And I'm born in Brooklyn, New York, but and have like a city awareness. And yet I like Seattle just was so different for me. So I loved it and he loved it. We went to farmers markets. It was great. The 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 come to Jesus moment of, oh shit, you're married and this is what you're up against was when we returned. We started to unpack and he started to pack a new suitcase. And I was like, where are you going? He goes, oh, I'm going on a family vacation. I was like,
I am your I am your family. Oh no. Oh hell no.
I
Okay.
know. And he's like, well, my mom, she booked a family vacation for me, my dad, and her to go to California for a month. And I was like, excuse me, wait, come again? Um, we've been planning this wedding for a year. And she was completely aware that we were planning this wedding. So why did she book these tickets? And he's like, oh, I don't know. And we got her on the phone and she passive aggressively was like, I just didn't think about it. I just wanted to spend some time with my son and my husband. And, I just bought the tickets in advance and didn't really realize. And I was like, now, the woman I am today would have said, bitch, staying with me. I'm sorry. I don't know what idea you have, but you're going to have to find, you're going to lose your money or you're going to have to figure out something to do with that extra ticket or you're going to have to buy a ticket because this man married me. And that means I am your daughter in law. And that means we are now family. So either you need to get on board with that idea or we don't have to talk. And so, but the younger, wanting to, the disease to please part of me.
Did you just say that right now? The
The
disease to please?
disease to please.
Lord. Okay, I'm
that
burning up.
that aspect of me has gotten me in so much trouble, wrapped up with the wrong people for way too long, that it's a disease of self. It's a because I am in it is dis-ease. I am out of ease in trying to please other people at a detriment to myself. But that's where I was at that time. And I had no tools of communication. I was very accustomed to my mom and my dad being like direct, and I would be willing to face, like, okay, the onslaught of like, oh, all right, well, I've got to be aggressive. Arg. Um, and here she was being sweet and kind and apologetic, and yet completely disrespecting me. And that, like, mentally, I didn't know what to do. And I didn't know I was pregnant, but I was. Because we had sex on our honeymoon. So,
Right.
like, I got pregnant and I didn't know it. I didn't know for months. That's how disconnected I was and how hurt I was. I did not know for a full trimester. Um, wasn't even paying attention to the fact that my cycle wasn't happening. Like, just buried myself in work. We were still communicating. We wrote letters to one another. He would call when he could, but it was always tinged with his mother creating now the other side of pressure. So my mom was the bridezilla on the front end, and on the back end, we had his mother's pressure that really couldn't accept the fact that her only son was now married and no longer quote unquote hers, and the pressure then therein that ensued. And it really made our marriage very, very difficult because she created hurdles that didn't need to be there. So, um, yeah, it took me a while. I did end up losing the child,
Mm.
which I really feel was for the best because that that baby was not meant to be a part of
In this
in
whole
this whole thing. It was just not meant to be. But um, and I've definitely had to do my healing about that separately. But it just was a moment. I didn't realize how many emotions were coming up for me at that time. And that was the first real indicator that Cassandra's not quite lined up with herself. Um, And I didn't, it's not like I had ever gone to therapy, or I did a little bit of therapy prior to that because in school they offer counseling services. So I was taking advantage of that. It was free. And I knew I had stuff I wanted to work through. But when it came to standing up for myself, and not being bullied, and not just swallowing disrespect, that took years. I don't think the culmination of my desiring to really shift that didn't happen until 2013. And so at this time it was like 2005, 6. So yeah, it took some time for me to feel, to basically say enough is enough, because really people don't change until you are sick and tired of being sick and tired. And apparently I was not yet done being sick and tired, so I dealt with it. And we were married for all through my 20s. So from 21 to 27, I was married to that man.
Tell me about your sick and tired moment. Like, what was the last straw where you were like, I need to get out of this marriage. I can't do this anymore.
That sick and tired moment came when, so we had a lot of, his mother would withhold a lot of things that we really needed. So at the time, and this is weird because then my parents were like totally on board with the fact that we're married and that we would need support as a new couple.
Nice.
So they just, even though there was so much, I really was like, my mom and my dad were wanting to flex their egos and be like, we are having the ideal wedding and we're inviting our friends and we're doing our thing. Like they forgot that it was about me getting married to my husband. It was about them. And so uh, now on the flip side, they were totally on board with, we understand what it is to be young and to be married because they got married at 18 and 19. So they were providing incredible amounts of support. So one of the things was that um, we needed a piano because we were building a piano studio. And my mom was like, you need a piano? Okay, if you find it, we will buy it for you as a gift. So we got this sweet little piano. It was like it was in some woman's garage that had been in the family for years, and it was still a pretty decent sound. And we are like, okay, cool. And then we wanted to upgrade. We moved into a new apartment. We wanted to upgrade to, he had this beautiful, gifted to him from his grandmother as a high school graduation present. His uncle stumbled across a Steinway from the 1900s. It was a 1906 vertigrand Steinway. So it's basically the strings of a grand piano, but in a vertical. So it was a little bit bigger because it had to compartmentalize
Right.
all these strings, but it was a glorious piano with original ivory keys. And his uncle was a woodworker, so I guess the outside casing of it was pretty beaten up, and he buffed it down. He resanded it. He polyurethaned it again. It was gorgeous, and his grandmother paid to have all of that done. And then she gave it to him as a graduation gift. And she said, when you are ready for it, it's going to stay at your mom's house, but when you're ready for it, it's yours to take wherever you are. So
Okay.
we were like, great. Well, we've moved into this lovely new apartment. We're ready to go. We've gotten more than enough students, and I was working more steadily at that time. And so we asked his mother for the piano, and she refused to give it to us. She was like, well, I don't want Cassandra to touch it. She might ruin it. And if we if we give it to her, um, or so if we give it to you, then what are you going to play when you come over to the house? Then you'll have no reason to come back home. So it was like all of these stupid little things.
This bitch. Okay.
I know, and neither of her and her husband were not pianists at all. It wasn't like it was being used. It was literally just sitting there collecting dust. And so I said, "Well, fuck this bitch. I'm done." So I went and found this piano store in Delaware, no tax, in Delaware, that was going out of business on Craigslist. Craigslist was very popular at the time, and we got, it was a Czechoslovakian piano that was $30,000, and I haggled it down to $3,000 and free shipping. We got this beautiful piano that he is still using to this day. um as something in place of the fact that his mother would not release the Steinway. So the day that he, and it months passed, he wouldn't tell his mother. I was like, when are you going to tell her? Like, what? I wanted to hear her be like, you know, but I had to respect him and say, you know what, that's his mom. I have my feelings about her, but we're still family. So, like, he's got to do what he's got to do on his own timeline. And so I think about a good 3 or 4 months passed, and he finally invited his mother over. We were in our new apartment. We had this beautiful new piano, and we had set up our studio. We were established. We were feeling really good as a couple because we'd overcome some hurdles that, as a result of his mother, we were able to overcome because my parents were willing to step in and help us at clutch moments, you know?
Hmm.
So, 3 to 4 months passed. He invites her over. He shows her every other part of our apartment at that time, except for the piano studio. When he finally brings her to the piano studio, I'm like foaming at the mouth. I'm like, I just want to see. And so she looks at the piano, she looks at him, and then she sits down and she goes, on the drive over, I finally made the decision to give you the Steinway. And I'm just deeply disappointed that you went behind my back and decided to get this piano instead. And they start getting into this intense fight. And I'm sitting there watching this, and he's like diminishing within himself because now he can't please his mother. And I just had enough. I was like, you cannot speak to my husband that way in my home, which for me was huge because I didn't really trust my voice enough to even speak up. But I finally had had enough. And I was like, "Ugh, you've made this really hard and we figured it out and we're doing it without your help." Mm. Well, she looked me straight in the eyes and she's like, I will never care what you think. I only care what my son thinks. So you have no voice here. And I looked at my ex husband and he said nothing. And at that moment, I was out.
Excuse me, the level of disrespect, and hubby said not a word.
Zilch. And that's when I was done. I was like,
Oh,
oh, we done. We
oh.
are done. I don't know how, I don't know where, I don't know what I'm going to do. I mean, like, we are so established. Like, this is, and that was the hardest part because I was very comfortable. Financially, we'd finally overcome a lot of hurdles. I was working in a steady job. We had dual income. Hi, sweet girl, my cat. It's
Hey, Kit Kat.
like, hey, how you doing? Anyway, but we had so many things working for us that when I made the decision to leave, there was a good 80% of me that did not want to go. 80%, hands down. It was a very, because, like, why would you leave the warm, comfortable home where you have steady income that you've spent 6.5 years building? Why would you all of a sudden be like, you know what? I'm going to just go. So I wasn't willing. I mean, a part of me was very much not willing to do that. Oh my gosh, my cat is just trying to be the center of attention right now. So there was that. And then the 20% of me was like, but you can't stay. You just know you can't stay. And you can't deny that 20%. I mean, yeah. So I just did what I had to do, and I left. And even as I left, I was like, why am I leaving? Is this really smart right now? Like, you don't have enough income to support yourself on your own. You have enough with what you've created. And now you're literally walking away from something you've spent years investing in. Why? So I decided, oh, I'm going to go to New York City and I'm going to live and go back to school. But that was, I was just telling a friend this the other day. I was like, it took me 10 years in New York City to get on my feet to recover from what leaving him was. 10 years. Because it wasn't just like, first of all, I didn't just stay in Princeton, New Jersey, where I had contacts. I already had a job, multiple jobs working for me. I had support, and I had created a community that was supporting me. No, I decided to move to one of the most difficult cities in the world and try to thrive with no income, no way I was going to figure out how I was going to earn my money. I was a yoga teacher full time at that time and also doing part time jobs, but like, it just couldn't, it didn't take off in a new city like it did when I was living in Princeton. And so the financial piece was hard. And my ex was very good at it and I let him. Like that was our agreement. I
Ah,
allowed him to have that authority and I didn't. And so to then learn to stand on my own 2 feet and figure out my finances, like, oh, that piece, that was literally a hell within itself. And it was a heartbreak. And I just, like, people are in their heartbreak or having a feeling of, depression and loneliness and sadness now because of due to COVID. But my COVID was happening back in 2010 and all the way up to 2015. Like that was my COVID. It lasted for a good long while where I was like, I just can't. I mean, now there were small blessings, but they were far and few because when you're putting new seed in the soil, that means you got to like remove all of the other stuff that isn't working. And you really got to look at yourself. And I walked around in a depressed haze for a very long time and it made dating very difficult, made everything difficult because I had this, I look at, I look at people's woundedness as this thing that we protect. So while it's not something that we visibly see, like if a child runs around, falls, hurts themselves, and they cry, like, oh, there's somebody there, hopefully an adult there to pick them up, hug them, and say, it's going to be okay. It's okay. Kiss the boo boo. Fine. But what do we do when you're an adult and you're wounded? Who is hugging you and loving on you and making it all better? Yes, we have friends and things, but even they kind of get tired. They're like, girl, you need to figure your shit out. And yet people walk around with their woundedness and never let it heal. We just try to get other people on board with our woundedness so that we don't have to address it. And we go, well, don't say this thing because it triggers me. Or I let you know that I don't like it when you talk about this thing XYZ. Like that's heavy. It's exhausting for you, the person who has to carry it. It's exhausting for the people around you that have to live and work with you. And so I was walking in that very wounded
hmm.
place for a very long time.
I want to go back to this 20%
Mm,
because I know that there's someone that's either watching or will watch this in the future
mm,
that knows that that 20% is there and that it's undeniable. What would you say to them? Like, what would you say to them to cause them to choose their selves and
mm,
to really stick with that 20% instead of the 80%? Because you could stay. There are people every day that stay in relationships that don't work and they're miserable, but they really stick with that 80% because of the finances, because of the kids, whatever it may be. What would you say to them? They know the 20% is there.
mm. So I think it's important to kind of do like a visualization and imagine yourself in that position where there's that 20% that says, oh, I just really need to get out of here. And the 80% that says, but it's comfortable. If you can envision living that life continuously and nothing changes, who are you going to be? How are you going to occur in your life? What quality is your life with that kind of dissonance within you? It's not a great feeling. And honestly, that dis-ease then
Come
takes
on.
on a physical manifestation
Come on.
and becomes disease. And I was clear. I was like, if I stayed, I probably would have gotten some cancer or something and just like shriveled up and died because I would have accepted this facade of joy, knowing that I was married to a man that was not willing to put me first. And it also made me very clear that I was not putting me first, period. I put my husband first, I put my family first, I put everybody else first because that's what I was conditioned to do. I remember my grandmother, 8 years old, I'm in Jamaica. She's like, all right, honey, come on, you have to learn how to be a wife now. You got to learn to clean and cook to provide for your husband. I was like, husband?
What?
How's that? But I was learning, I was being conditioned at a very young age. And so, um, because that's what are in Jamaica, the women just have children and get married or if you're lucky. Most of them, you just have multiple children by different men, and you're just like, all right, this is it. I mean, when I go back home to Jamaica and I'm around my cousins, they look at me like I'm crazy for not having children. I'm looking at them like they're crazy for having so many different children by so many different men. And I'm like, isn't that exhausting to keep track?
Mm,
But
mm.
it's just a different conditioning, and so um, yeah, what is your life going to look like if it never changes? Is that satisfactory to you? And if it's not, then you got to take a risk and burn the ships, because then you can't go back. And that's kind of, I mean, that it's a strength that I have. It's not always this, your strength can be in your weakness, but like, I'm willing to take a risk. I'm willing to be like, fuck all this. Ugh. Even if that means I totally face plant, which I did. And you will, but the opportunity now to really step up and be your best self and give not just 20%, but now 100% to you, that's a very different conversation. And so I think I struggled for so long because I just was having such a hard time getting on board with what Cassandra needed. I was still looking for somebody else to give Cassandra what she needed, when really that's nobody else's responsibility but my own. To sit still with me and go, what do I like? What do I need? What do I want? Where am I going? What makes me feel called? What is my purpose? Those are deep, heavy questions that cannot be answered overnight. And yet I knew that I came to that place. For me, it was 2015, where I got into, sadly, an accident where it snowed. It was March 20th. It snowed. It wasn't supposed to snow. The city wasn't prepared for snow, so they didn't salt anything. They didn't prepare people. And I was going to the subway in my boots, and I'm like living that starving artist life. So these boots have been with me for some time. and, and
Girl.
and the tread is gone, and but I was still rocking them. And I went to the stairs. I slipped, missed 6 stairs, and fell splat to the floor below, and tore every single ligament in my right leg, and could not walk for 8 months. And I was teaching yoga full time at that time, so no more working, no more earning. But can I tell you, I got humbled hard because I was ignoring. I'd gotten tools and lessons. I'd gotten a lot of tools from being a yoga teacher. I gotten a lot of tools from taking counseling and going to transformational programs like Momentum Education, and going to a counselor, found like an income based repayment plan. I was going to the counselor, and I was aware, right? But I wasn't applying it to myself. I was the first person to judge another person, tell them what they need to be doing in order to be better, instead of turning that lens and being like, girl, because it really, yeah. So 2015 had me laying flat. And I call 2015 my year of tears because I had to cry through the loss of my marriage, the loss of a child that I didn't have, the failure that I felt, the insecurity that I was still harboring, the people that I was surrounded by that were not really serving me, like, and so aware that I needed to make a change, and just started with the first tool, which for me was meditation. I needed to get still. I needed to get still so that I could look at the mess. And when I looked at the mess, it made me really sad. And I cried it all out. I like acknowledged each piece of it and finally went through it all instead of ignoring it. Because that 20% that was, you really got to go, it actually was just the tip of the iceberg. Because everything that was underneath was still there waiting for me. So it would have come out in my marriage, and maybe I would have attacked my ex-husband. And I don't know, I can't speak to that life, but it was a life that I lived, and I was happy in it, and there were so many beautiful, wonderful times. And I was really reminded of that when I went back to Princeton just this past weekend, that my friend that came with me, he's like, I have not seen you this filled with joy and childlike. Like, I've seen moments of this, but like, you are exuberant the entire time. And I forgot that that was a piece of me, because I was so excited in the building of my life with this man that loved me, and felt like it was all, I was hard, but I was willing to do it with this person by my side. But he was masking a lot of things that I wasn't willing to either acknowledge or wasn't aware of until life hits you with a 2x4. Because I
Mm.
think God leaves clues. I think he throws pebbles and he's like, I need you to come this way. I'm asking you to come this way. This is not working because I'm trying to get you to go that way, you know? And I saw all those things and I was like, yeah, whatever. Just kept going. Just right
Not
over my
alone.
head.
You're not alone.
Yeah, totally right over my head. And so um he humbled me to my knees, where I literally was like, okay, you gave me all the tools and I have refused to put them to good use. Well, now I have to, because I can't help but look at it all. Because I was on a trajectory that was still completely out of alignment with what I was called to do. So yeah, that 20%, that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Wow. So you're saying that because what I was feeling when I was saying the 20% and you make the choice to leave, then your life is immediately going to get better. Everything's going to be great. You left this relationship that wasn't working, but there's no promise that that's going to happen immediately. There's a process that you still have to go through to get to healing from the heartbreak and everything that happened.
Yeah, because it's like you put a seed in the soil, there's nothing that says that you know when it's going to sprout. Like we have we've had generations and generations upon generations of people that have had trial and error when it comes to things like farming. Somebody had to fail really hard to go, you know what, it's not a good idea to plant seeds in winter.
You're right. You're
But
right.
we're so disconnected from that because we didn't have to suffer that, but we benefit from that knowledge.
Hmm.
Now we have an idea of like, well, it generally takes this much time for this seed to sprout. Why? Because somebody had to test it and go through the failure of it. But when you are seeding a soil for you,
Come on. Come
there's
on.
nothing that says there's no timeline. It's just you just got to keep showing up and nurturing you, and you will grow. You will develop, you will expand, you will outgrow your circumstances if you can find one small action, a little bit every day, that is taking care of and nurturing yourself. And you will find that there's a momentum that begins to build. And then things start making movement forward. And so after 2015, it didn't make 2016, 2017, or 2018 any easier. In fact, those were still really hard years, particularly 2017. I call that the year where I was on the operating table of life because I was I
Hmm.
almost lost my condo. I mean, my condo. I was being evicted from my apartment. I didn't have enough money. I was like, oh, everything that I was but there were other blessings. Like I was making moves. It's just that if the plant is still growing, it might not be big enough to support the other thing that you're holding. And then to me, that was God's way of being like, girl, when you gonna let go?
Woo!
I had to let go. I was holding these things that made me feel good about me for the having of them, even though they were completely outside of my ability to hold. But you cannot receive any new blessings if your hand is full of the bullshit. So I had to just let go. And while I loved the things that I had, I loved my apartment on 168th Street, I couldn't afford it and I was being evicted. So I had to learn to let go. And I found creative ways to jump in and figure it out because I wasn't willing to give up on myself. I burned the ships. I was like, it's this, but who can I call? Who can help me? What can I do? And there were people, beautiful, beautiful people who are still in my life right now that were supports at that time because I was willing to step out of my comfort zone and ask for help instead of my previous thinking is like, I just have to do everything myself. Like, whoever actually does anything yourself? You come into this life, and honestly, if somebody just left you as a baby, you would be dead. You need support. You need human beings. You need that community. You need that vitality. And I think that's really important for singers as well. That's another
Hmm.
conversation. Um, but particularly when you are growing,
Yeah.
there's a great quote that my dear friend, who's now my ride or die, like these beautiful people were, it's like things were moving, like people were being removed and new people were coming in. And so
Hmm.
at a time of transition, this wonderful friend of mine now came on board and he told me it's a Spanish, it's originally from Spanish culture, but I don't know the translation or don't know it in Spanish, but the translation is, tell me who you walk with and I will tell you who you are, because we are the sum total of the people that we spend the most time around. So when I looked around at the people I was surrounded by, I was like, ooh, some of these people are good, but some of them are not.
Mhm.
And learning to ask, I love somebody learning to ask for help is such a blessing. Yes, it is, because it's like, yes, baby. If you don't learn to have that humbling of spirit and say, I can only give as much as I can give, and I'm willing to show up for myself, but like I'm looking at the people around me and who's standing with me,
Mm,
willing to help me shift,
mm,
who's willing to be my advocate, who are my resources,
mhm, mhm.
and make those changes with the resources you have, and look at the people around you as opportunities to either embrace the people you have or to do an upgrade. We upgrade our phones, we upgrade our computers, we upgrade everything,
Honey,
but we don't always think about updating our mindset or updating the people that we surround ourselves around. And so if there's stuff that that person is saying where you're like, oh man, she's I can't stand the way they XYZ. Well, maybe that's not the person for you. And it's also a reflection of, well, they are lining up with you. So where do you do that? If you don't like it, where's that happening in you? And that was my school. Like I
whoa,
yeah.
whoa.
Yeah. And that was my school. I was like, I don't like this person. Why do I keep holding them around? It wasn't enough to just get rid of them because then somebody else that was very much like them just took their spot.
Cause what? It's you.
It's
It's
me.
us.
Exactly. I was the connecting factor. So if I wanted to grow, I needed to acknowledge the things about them that really irked me because that's the sign. Oh, this ain't it. And when you're in relationship with people, intimate relationships or just, friendships, which are intimate too in a different way, but like romantic relationships compared to friendships and intimate relationships, you've got to look at, are you sharing the same values? Not just does this person make you feel hot under the sheets, do they make you feel good when, for certain, like it feels good to have this eye candy on your arm or something, but like, do you share the same values? Do you both agree that, I don't know what's that trust is a huge, as I said earlier, trust is a huge one. um, Communication, a, a growth mindset, a person who practices gratitude, a person who has some values where they already know how to take care of themselves. They're grown ass people, not a child in a grown up body. You
Mhm.
know, all of those conversations and looking at the people around you and going, okay, well, taking that inventory. I do it regularly when I'm cleaning out my spring clothes or my winter clothes and I'm like, "Ah, I don't need this anymore. I'm removing that." The same is for our mindset, like, and the people that are around me and the life I'm living and what's, constantly in my face of, like right now I'm in complete transition and things feel uncomfortable, and yet I am very comfortable with being uncomfortable because I've had 10 years of it. So when I'm uncomfortable, I'm like, this means growth. Uncomfortable means growth. Cool. Let
Got
me,
it.
yeah, let me lean in because
Ooh,
I'm
so
growing.
leaning in as opposed to leaning away from the
Yeah,
discomfort.
lean into that discomfort. It's there to tell you and teach you something. Otherwise, it wouldn't be there. It wouldn't be there. And this is like the world that we live in. This is a school. You're here to grow. If it was easy, we'd be bored. So it's meant to be your playground.
Right.
Um, but that doesn't mean that the lessons are easy.
Hmm.
They still, I was just telling this to a dear friend of mine the other day. She unfortunately lost her job, and it's very stressful in the middle of COVID. And she didn't lose her job because she wasn't doing the work. She was a fabulous employee, but they were like, "Oh, we're restructuring. Oh, sorry, bye." Very irresponsible of the employer. And I said to her, I was like, "Look, honey," and this is what my mom has said to me many times when life has knocked me flat. She's like, to me, life is like being a boxer. You have to train to be a boxer so that you can fortify your body in this controlled environment to literally take a beating. And you go into the ring and you might get hit and knocked down. You might get back up. And from that hit, you might even win the fight. But the healing on the other side, whether you win or lose, still takes the same amount of time.
Hmm.
You still feel the bruising and you still got to be like, oh, that hurt.
Mhm.
And while I might have won, it still hurt. The lesson still hurt. That's okay because it's making you stronger. And there's things that we overcome that we don't even think about now, like walking.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
Think about how many times as children we fell and
Mhm.
dropped our heads and cried, and our parents were there to be like, "Oh, it's okay. Don't even remember it anymore because it's so automatic for you now.
Right.
You've mastered it until you like try to do something else with your body, and your body's like, oh, you got to learn all over again and fail and fail and fail and fail and fail until you master it. That is the purpose of failure is
Mm.
to help you have mastery. So when we pull away from the thing that's potential failure, it's really us preventing our becoming, our growth.
Got it. I got it. Last week's show, my friend Travis said, we don't get to choose if the lesson's going to hurt or not, right? We don't get to choose how bad it's going to hurt. And he was saying that when he is the most uncomfortable and when the lesson hurts the most is when he grows the most and he really gets to the best parts of himself. So if there's someone out there that's struggling and that's hurting, thank you for tuning in. You can always come to this space for some healing, and for to hear someone that maybe has a story like you. And I also want to encourage you, like, if you are holding on to the things, to the person, to the job, to the idea of what you're supposed to be, let go. Open your hands. Like I have literally had to at times in like visualize myself opening my hands and letting all the responsibilities drop. Because if not, I was not going to survive. Like I was not going to be okay. And the people in your life, they will be there for you. If they're meant to be there for you, they will be there for you and they will
And if they're
understand.
not, that's not the person for you. And that's just like, that's a thank you. It's like, thank you for removing yourself. I
Right?
appreciate
Dr. Seuss said, be who you are and say what you feel because those who mind don't matter. And those who matter, they'll mind. They'll be keeping that on their mind like that. Tell me
Beautifully
about
said.
love after heartbreak and divorce. Have you been out here?
Oh,
Have people been in your DMs? Have you been dating? What's that process been like?
no, I don't know about anybody being in my DMs other than like other singers. I'm like, what you doing? How are you doing this? I just want to like, I anyway, but love after heartbreak. I find that my work was to be unconditionally loving to Cassandra. I needed to just love me. Find out what I didn't even know. I was so used to giving to everybody else that I didn't even really know what I wanted. I was a chameleon in relationships. I would shift and change myself to be whatever that person needed so that they would love me. And I would continue to keep that facade up, and it was exhausting, but I was good at it. I mean,
Exhausting.
so good, I got married.
Exhausting. You hear me? Can you
Yeah.
hear me?
It's
It's
exhausting.
exhausting. Okay.
So, in 2015, when it was just me, a single girl in my own apartment with two cats, because I needed a lot of, I needed to practice unconditional love with these two little fur babies. They taught me a lot, and I also learned a lot about just showing up for me.
Mhm.
And I journaled it out, I cried it out, I meditated every single day. I have not dropped on my meditation practice. I do it every day. Um, so yeah, it was falling in love with me because I realized that if love is a frequency that I can align into, if I love me, eventually I will find somebody who loves themselves in the same way, and we're gonna match up.
Mm.
So the dating world, it's uncomfortable. It's incredibly
Lean in, boo. Lean in.
true. It's incredibly superficial right now. You can make connections with people, but they're not following through and flowing through in a way that feels authentic. You're getting the representative, you're not getting that real person. And I've taken time, like I've gone through many moments of like, oh, I can't do this anymore, and I'll get off, so I'll get off the dating apps or whatever. Now I just choose to continue to be in the game because it's practice. Every single disrespectful thing that I see, in fact, I just received a text message yesterday. Today's Monday.
Yesterday.
Yesterday, I woke up to this text message. This man was like, forgive the vulgarity. He's like, now I don't know the number, didn't recognize the number. it I couldn't tell you who it was. Could not tell you who it was, but they had my number. And he was like, Cassandra, please, can I please just come over and eat your pussy out from
Oh, I'm sorry.
I know, I know. And then he said, I just oh, and then he said, I promise I won't pull out. And that was what I woke up to. I was like, well now. So, you know, now your energy, how much energy you have, you wake up in the morning and you're filled with energy. I usually start my mornings with the morning practice where I am grounded. I take that 10% of the day and go, this is my time for me to fill up on me and be with God. So it's a wonderful practice, miracle morning practice. You can go check it out. You can Google it and find and cultivate your own morning practice. But the mornings for me are sacred. And so I don't usually look at my phone, but it was just such a blaring text where I was like, whew. And I thought, how do I want to spend my energy responding to this? How do I wish to respond to this? Um, and I said, good morning. I believe you are confusing me with another woman you've known better than me. And I said, well, I will be blocking this number and moved right and deleted it. Moved right on.
Did not entertain it.
No. I mean, I could have been like, oh, and I have done that. I have to other men who have been completely disrespectful. But I was like, why am I going to disturb my peace first thing in the morning for someone
Mm.
who I do not remember, who is showing me that he is displaying insecurity because he needs somebody outside of him to make him feel fulfilled. He is not a whole and complete person. Why am I going to waste my time? All right, you must be confusing me with somebody else you know better. Sorry.
Mhm.
And move right on to the rest of my day where I'm going to spend my energy responsibly
Mhm.
because it's mine and I choose how I want to give out and dole out this thing that I get refilled on every single day. It's mine.
Merritt says it's the self-worth for me.
Amen. Amen.
You got that. Okay, but now I want to pause for a second and say, like, if we're together and we're like booed up and we're babes and we're in a relationship, please send me those texts in the morning. You need a little spice. You just need
That's
a
a
little like,
different thing. That's a different conversation.
but if I don't know you, okay, I get it. Come on, self-worth.
Amen.
I'm here for it.
Amen. Amen. So yeah,
So
that's
you've been out here. Have you gotten close to meeting someone that you wanted to be in a relationship with, or is it just not time?
I just accept that maybe it's not my time yet. Um, and that's not easy because I'm like, sometimes I'm working out and I'm looking at my body. I'm like, damn, I got all this yumminess. Like, who's going to appreciate this?
Girl.
And then I hear a little voice and be like, you are?
Oh, okay.
Right,
Okay.
right, me. I will appreciate
Okay. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that's me.
right.
Okay.
This is me appreciating it. I'm working out, I'm eating healthy foods, I'm meditating in the morning, I'm loving on myself so that when the person comes, this aspect of me does not change. The
Mm,
work continues just because somebody comes in and I think that's where I have in the past struggled the most where somebody new comes in and then I it throws me off my center. I've got this whole planetary like groundedness and then this new planet comes in and throws me off my orbit. Why? I've spent all this energy building this world that's working. So whoever gets to come into that, you've got to really come correct and I get to stay grounded in the being of it. And I think that that's the true power of the feminine of like nothing will rock me from my center.
nothing.
Nothing will rock me from my center.
Girl.
You have to really like physically do me harm to knock me off my center, but I'm so clear that I've done the work that makes sure that and I see the evidence that Cassandra has been loving on Cassandra. I would not have bought a condo in the middle of a freaking pandemic if I didn't. So like
Boo bought a condo for herself.
for myself.
Okay.
And people were like, well, maybe when your husband I don't know if he's coming. I don't know. Like I can't. Oh, excuse me. This thing is making big noise. It's like I can't focus on that. I have to focus on what I can focus on, which is me. And until that wonderful man comes into my life, whoever he is, wherever he's doing, he is growing and developing at this time. And I have to respect that this is as much time as it's taking. J Lo met her man. Okay, she's 50. Okay, maybe I
Okay.
need to wait till I'm 50. I don't know. I don't know. But I'm not going to sit here and be like, it has to happen by this time. And if, I mean, I've made some decisions around it where I was like, okay, you know what? Children are not on the table for me. I acknowledge that. That's a hard thing to hear. It's a deep issue to hear. That's
Hmm.
another conversation where I've made the choice. And I always felt this, where I was like, no, I'm investing my energy in manifesting and birthing other things that are not children. It doesn't mean that I'm not a creative being. It just means that I'm choosing to put my energy into something else. Some women might say I'm being selfish. Well, yeah, I am in a way because
You have
I'm
a right to.
choosing to. I don't personally have the income right now to give to a child in the way that I know I would want to.
Hmm.
Nor am I willing to stop right now my trajectory in order to have a child because that would then create another it would just create another sphere for me to acknowledge and change. Now, if a child fell into my lap, I know I would do whatever I had to do to make that happen, but it hasn't happened for me, and I have to look at that and go, maybe it's because I actually really didn't want this, and I was never the girl that was like, oh, I can't wait till I have children. I would see my girlfriends look at children and be like, oh, my ovaries, and I was like, I've never had that feeling. What? And even when I was pregnant, I remember feeling that little being, like my body moving and shaking to make room for this. And I was stressed beyond belief. I was like, I can't, like, I just was stressed. It was not a welcoming feeling for me. And so, with those sensations, I have to just acknowledge, you know what, this wasn't really for me. But relationship, that is something that I see for myself, have seen, have always wanted. I've always seen myself as a girl like running around some city, singing somewhere, doing amazing things, and creating a community that feels authentic and a reflection of the woman that I am. That's where I'm putting my time and my and focusing my energy.
Mhm.
Um, and also, there are, I think the last statistic I checked, there are 410,000 children in um, in foster care and in and that are without parents in the US alone. That's not even including 410,000 children. If I really wanted to be a mama, if I all of a sudden I wake up and I feel that calling, I'm like, let me go adopt somebody.
You're right. You're right.
Or I could,
Absolutely right.
get online and pay for some child in Africa to have them have a leg up. Like it doesn't have to look like me physically manifesting this being and being mothering and nurturing. Those qualities are within me and I value them. But it's a choice that I'm making because I know I want to birth something else that's different. So that's what I have to say about that.
Cassandra, one thing that has just stuck with me is the beauty of the practice because I'm sure, in the beginning when you first started meditating and doing the practice, you weren't necessarily in the place where you would have responded to that text message in that way. Um, and also when you are unshakable and when you are firm, standing on a foundation of
Mhm.
love for Cassandra, it doesn't, you may wonder sometimes when or if he's coming, but it doesn't really matter. You're in your life and you're enjoying your life. It's so cliche. People are like, you got to love yourself. You got to do this and that. But have you really done the work? Have you done
Mhm.
the meditation? Have you done the practice? Even when you didn't feel like it, even whenever.
Yeah.
Practice, the practice, the practice.
I caught
Oh,
Dr. Oprah was talking about it. She would ask people when she was interviewing them, "What is your spiritual practice?" And some women would cry and and she's like, "Well, that's not the person to to entertain in my organization." Or you have people give very like I don't know, structured or disconnected answers, and she's like, "Well, that's not the person." But like, really, what is the thing that you do every day where you take care of yourself? that is your spiritual practice. If you are not doing that and you expect somebody else to walk in and do it for you, baby, I got a rude awakening for you. Because even when that person is willing to do it for a short period of time because you're in the infatuation stage and you love each other, they're going to get real tired real fast because they're still trying to take care of themselves. And so to me, it gives me a lot of discernment when I am dating. I'm looking at how that person values themselves because I know that when they value themselves, they are going to in turn value me in the same way. But if they disrespect themselves and mistreat themselves and throw their needs to the wayside, that's not the person for me.
Okay, this has been amazing and wonderful. And I am so full and I'm so fulfilled. Tell us what's coming up next. How can we engage with you? How can we follow you? Can we email you? What we need to be in touch with you.
Yes, thank you. I love this whole platform that you've created, and I am in the process of creating my own. So come March, I will be creating the operatic impact and how I have a YouTube channel where we talk about how opera impacts us and how opera also impacts the artist and how that conversations about that. So that's on the horizon. I tried to start that this month and my computer was like, no. So, but it's been in the works for a long time, but now I have to like get the, get the electronic things to get on the same page with me. But I'm also using this time of COVID and this pandemic to be a true singer and balance my singing life and my work life. Working remotely has been a blessing for me in that it gives me flexibility to sing and do master classes. So I learned two operas last year. I learned La Contessa from Les Notes de Figaro, and I learned Mimi from La Boheme. And that was with the International Summer Opera Festival of Morelia, which they are looking for new people because they're putting on Les Notes de Figaro and something else for the summer, which I'm like, you know what, this is an opportunity. I'm going to do it. I'm going to learn La Contessa, or I'm going to perform Contessa instead of just learning it, but actually perform it. So that's on the horizon for June, July. I'm currently finishing up with the Vincero Academy, which is a fantastic academy with Abdiel Vasquez. You can find him or type in Vincero Academy into Google or Instagram. And I've just finished learning Micaela. So that's coming to a close. I have master classes and such this week. So it's like, whew, but I'm jumping into different things and just being the singer that I've always wanted to be because for so many years living in New York, I told myself I wasn't good enough. I was never ready. I can't do this. I don't have the website. I don't have the headshots. I don't have the money, whatever the excuse was. And now it's like, no, you have resources and you have all these opportunities and you can do it. Just do it. And so I'm like taking full advantage. Every time I hear my brain go, "Oh, you can't." I'm like, "This is an opportunity. How are we go what do we have to who do we have to be to make this happen? How proactive do I have to be like, all right, I can switch this around and move that around and do this and do it. So I'm really leaning into the uncomfortable moments and removing that aspect of me that has doubted myself for so long. I'm also on Instagram at underscore Cassandra underscore Douglas, or just type in Cassandra Douglas and you'll see my picture being like, ah! And I'm building myself on Instagram. I had another Instagram page that sadly no longer, I was like, had thousands of people on it. I was like, build
Mhm.
elsewhere because it just was no longer connecting to my other social media. So I was like, it's okay, start again. Maybe it was for the, I think I know it was for the better. So I'm building on Instagram. So come follow me. I'm sharing my journey there. I'm sharing my daily meditation practices. And I think in the future, I'd like to go back to teaching yoga again in an online capacity, but that's way off in the horizon, probably happening more next year. So for now, join me for Operatic Impact, which will be debuting next month. And I'll be singing and posting all of my singing on my website at CassandraEDouglas.com or on Instagram at Cassandra Douglas. And yeah, that's that.
Uh, Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Not only have you blessed this audience, you have truly impacted me and you have truly blessed me with your words today. Do you have any final thoughts for someone that may be really going through a hard time right now and just needs to hear from someone who's been through, what you've been through?
Well, there's a mantra that I live by, and it's by Aristotle. Um, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. We are we are creatures of habit. And so if you perpetually fail to show up for yourself, then your life will be a reflection of that practice. But if you repeatedly show up for yourself in one small, easy, tangible way, then you will begin to see small changes and you will begin to see your life shift and change, especially from heartbreak. That it takes those small moments to just forgive yourself for choosing what you've chosen and love yourself for choosing the new thing. So, yeah, thank you so much for this. This has been so much fun.
Thank you. Thank you. A big thank you to all the viewers out there. We recently hit 2,000 subscribers on YouTube, and when we get to 2,500, we're going to be doing a big giveaway. So keep your eyes out for that. Um, Again, thank you for supporting the Love series. Next month, I'm starting a new series called The Healing Space. We're going to talk about healing. And I think, Cassandra, you're a great way to segue right into that healing space. Next week, my good friend, Kendra Savage, she's an EMDR therapist. She's also a specialist with alcohol and drug addiction. We're going to really get into the nitty gritty next week and for the next 5 weeks. So tune in. Wherever you are, give this a like, give it a share, subscribe on YouTube. I appreciate the support. And I look forward to seeing you next week. We're here every Monday night, youtube.com/Bernard Holcomb. I love you. Let's roll the Oh, give it up for my boy Cody. Show him some love. He is executive producing behind the scenes. I don't have to do nothing. I don't have to keep nothing on my mind but talking to my guests. We love you, Cody. Thank you. Okay, now we can roll the credits. See you next week.